There is a quiet ache that does not come from loss, failure, or lack. It appears even when life looks complete on the surface. The heart moves through achievements, relationships, comfort, and moments of joy, yet something subtle remains unresolved. Not loud enough to be called pain, not chaotic enough to be called restlessness, but deep enough to prevent true settling. The heart continues forward, functioning well, smiling when needed, yet carrying an unspoken sense of incompletion. This feeling is often misunderstood as dissatisfaction or ingratitude, but it is neither. It is far more precise. It is awareness awakening. The heart senses that what it is touching, no matter how meaningful, cannot hold it permanently. It recognizes limits before the mind does, so it does not protest. It simply refuses to rest where it does not belong. This ache is not a flaw in the heart. It is the heart's intelligence, a quiet refusal to be completed by what was never meant to complete it. The heart is often misunderstood as a place of endless desire. When it feels unsatisfied, people assume it wants more comfort, more success, more recognition, more experience. Yet this interpretation misses something essential. The heart is not greedy by nature. It is not endlessly demanding. What it truly seeks is direction. It wants to know where it stands and what it is oriented toward. When this sense of direction is missing, desire multiplies, not because the heart wants excess, but because it feels unanchored. When the heart lacks orientation, it reaches outward repeatedly. It moves from one experience to the next, hoping each new attachment will finally bring a sense of completion. This reaching is not driven by hunger for abundance, but by confusion about belonging. The heart is searching for a place where it can rest without effort. Until it finds that place, it continues to extend itself outward, mistaking movement for fulfillment. This is why desire grows when alignment is absent. Without a clear inner direction, the heart does not know when to stop. Each new achievement briefly distracts it from the underlying emptiness. But once the excitement fades, the ache returns. The heart assumes it simply chose the wrong object, so it searches again. Over time, this cycle creates exhaustion, not because the heart is demanding too much, but because it has been walking without a compass. Direction gives desire its limits. When the heart knows where it belongs, desire becomes focused rather than scattered. It no longer needs to chase endlessly. It can engage with life fully without being consumed by it. But when direction is lost, even good things fail to satisfy. The heart touches them, enjoys them briefly, and then releases them, sensing they cannot hold what it carries. Without orientation, even the finest experiences feel temporary and incomplete. Beauty fades quickly. Success feels strangely quiet. Relationships feel meaningful yet insufficient. This does not mean these experiences lack value. It means they are not meant to serve as the heart's foundation. The heart senses this instinctively, which is why it never fully settles in them. The heart's discomfort in abundance is often misread as ingratitude, but gratitude and orientation are not the same. A heart can be grateful and still unsettled. Gratitude acknowledges what is received. Orientation determines where the heart rests. Without orientation, gratitude does not lead to peace. It simply becomes another moment the heart passes through. The heart does not want to own more. It wants to stand somewhere stable. It wants a center that does not shift with circumstances. When that center is unclear, the heart compensates by accumulating experiences, hoping quantity will replace clarity. But quantity cannot provide direction. It only delays the moment when the heart must confront its misalignment. This is why fulfillment cannot be sustained through external gain alone. External gain changes conditions, but it does not resolve orientation. The heart remains restless because it is still facing the wrong direction. It continues to ask for more because it has not yet been shown where to turn. When direction is restored, something surprising happens. Desire does not disappear, but it softens. The heart no longer grabs. It chooses. It engages without clinging. Satisfaction lasts longer, not because life becomes perfect, but because the heart is no longer asking life to define it. Orientation allows the heart to enjoy without depending. It can appreciate beauty without fearing its loss. It can pursue goals without attaching its worth to them. It can form connections without demanding they complete it. This balance only becomes possible when the heart knows where it belongs. The hunger for direction is subtle, which is why it is often mistaken for hunger for more. But once the heart recognizes this distinction, its searching changes. It stops chasing fulfillment and starts seeking alignment. This shift is quiet, but it is decisive. The heart was never meant to be filled endlessly. It was meant to be placed correctly. When it is oriented toward its true center, desire finds its measure. Movement becomes meaningful, and the ache that once drove the heart outward begins to ease, not because it gained more, but because it finally knows where it stands. Fulfillment slips away quickly because many of the things that momentarily satisfy the heart were never meant to hold it. They provide a sense of relief, excitement, or comfort for a short time, but they cannot become a place of rest. The heart may enjoy them deeply, yet it does not settle there. This is not because the heart is ungrateful or difficult to please. It is because the heart understands something before the mind does. The heart senses impermanence instinctively. Long before the mind analyzes or labels an experience, the heart feels its temporary nature. This is why even moments of happiness often carry a quiet tension beneath them. While enjoyment is present, the heart is already aware that the moment will pass. It does not ruin the experience, but it prevents the heart from relaxing completely into it. This awareness is subtle. It does not shout or complain. It shows itself as a faint sense of incompleteness, a background feeling that something more stable is missing. Even while smiling, celebrating, or achieving, the heart remains slightly alert. It knows that what it is touching cannot last. This knowing is not pessimism, it is perception. Because the heart senses impermanence early, fulfillment begins to fade the moment it arrives. The peak of pleasure is followed almost immediately by a quiet descent. The heart does not cling aggressively, but it also does not stay. It releases because it understands that staying would create attachment to something that cannot sustain it. This is why satisfaction often feels fragile. The heart enjoys, but it does not anchor. It appreciates, but it does not rely. When the experience ends, the heart returns to its familiar sense of lack. This return can feel disappointing, but it is not betrayal by the heart. It is honesty. Many people interpret this fading fulfillment as a personal flaw. They believe something is wrong with them for not being satisfied longer. They try to correct this by increasing intensity, seeking stronger experiences, or accumulating more. But this only repeats the cycle. Stronger experiences fade as well. More accumulation does not create permanence. The heart is not ungrateful because it does not stay satisfied. Gratitude acknowledges what was received. Fulfillment requires stability. The heart can be grateful and still unsettled. It can appreciate deeply and still sense that what it touched was not meant to be its foundation. Another reason fulfillment fades quickly is that the heart is not designed to be sustained by stimulation. Stimulation excites the senses, but it does not ground the heart. Once stimulation ends, the heart returns to its original question. This is why repeated stimulation often leads to exhaustion rather than contentment. The heart also resists being defined by passing states. If fulfillment depended entirely on experiences, the heart would rise and fall endlessly. This instability would be unbearable over time. The heart protects itself by not fully surrendering to what it knows will disappear. Even joy can feel incomplete when it is tied to conditions. As long as fulfillment depends on circumstances remaining unchanged, the heart cannot rest. It remains slightly guarded, aware that change is inevitable. This guard is not fear, it is wisdom. When pleasure fades and emptiness appears, the heart is often blamed. But the emptiness is not created by the loss of pleasure. It was already present. Pleasure simply covered it temporarily. When the covering lifts, the emptiness becomes visible again. This visibility can feel discouraging, but it is informative. The heart is perceptive because it distinguishes between what delights and what sustains. Delight passes, sustenance remains. The heart does not confuse the two, even when the mind does. This distinction is what keeps the heart searching, not for more pleasure, but for something stable enough to rest in. Fulfillment slips away quickly because the heart is honest about limits. It does not pretend that something temporary can be permanent. It does not accept substitutes for stability. This honesty can feel uncomfortable, but it is protective. It prevents the heart from settling into illusions that would eventually collapse. When this understanding deepens, the fading of fulfillment is no longer seen as loss. It is seen as guidance. The heart is signaling that it has tasted something good, but not something final. It enjoyed without attaching, appreciated without depending. The heart's quick release is not rejection, it is discernment. It recognizes that what it touched was part of the journey, not the destination. And so it lets go gently, without bitterness, without resentment, and without complaint. Fulfillment slips away quickly because the heart knows it is meant for something that does not fade. Until that orientation is found, nothing temporary will feel sufficient. The heart is not broken, it is precise. It knows the difference between passing sweetness and lasting rest, and it refuses to confuse one for the other. The world has the ability to engage the senses, but it does not have the ability to anchor the heart. Sounds, sights, achievements, relationships, and experiences can fill attention for a while, creating moments of excitement or comfort. Yet none of these were designed to become the heart's resting place. When the heart asks the world to quiet it permanently, it makes a request that cannot be fulfilled. This mistake often happens quietly. The heart does not consciously decide to rely on the world for stability. It simply begins to expect that the next experience, the next connection, or the next success will finally bring calm. The heart does not ask for excess. It asks for rest. But rest cannot be provided by what is constantly changing. When the heart places its hope in experiences, it gives them a responsibility they were never meant to carry. Experiences are meant to be passed through, not leaned upon. They can inspire, teach, and delight, but they cannot hold the weight of the heart's need for permanence. When they inevitably change or end, the heart feels let down. This disappointment is often misunderstood. People assume the heart is dissatisfied because the experience was flawed or incomplete. In reality, the experience may have been beautiful, meaningful, and genuine. The disappointment arises not from its quality, but from the expectation placed upon it. The heart expected what the experience could not give. The world is built on movement. Seasons change, people grow, circumstances shift. What feels stable today may transform tomorrow. The heart senses this instability even while enjoying what is present. This awareness prevents it from fully resting in the world. When it tries to anyway, tension forms beneath enjoyment. Many people respond to this tension by increasing their involvement with the world. They pursue more stimulation, deeper intensity, or greater achievement, hoping that stronger experiences will finally quiet the heart. But intensity does not create permanence. It only amplifies contrast. When the experience fades, the emptiness feels sharper. The heart does not reject the world because it is ungrateful. It rejects dependence on the world because it recognizes its limits. This understanding is not cynical. It is protective. When the heart asks the world to quiet it, it also becomes vulnerable to instability. Its peace rises and falls with circumstances. When things go well, the heart feels lifted. When they change, the heart collapses inward. This cycle creates exhaustion. The heart becomes tired of constantly adjusting to external conditions. The world can support the heart, but it cannot replace the heart's center. When the heart confuses support with anchoring, it becomes disappointed repeatedly. This disappointment is not meant to discourage the heart. It is meant to teach it where not to rest. Another aspect of this mistake is comparison. When the heart looks outward for quiet, it measures itself against others' experiences. It assumes that peace exists where someone else seems settled. This comparison deepens unrest because it pushes the heart further away from its own grounding. The heart is not asking the world to disappear. It is asking it to stop being asked for what it cannot provide. When the heart releases this demand, its relationship with the world changes. Experiences can be enjoyed without pressure. Connections can be formed without dependence. Success can be appreciated without attachment. The world becomes lighter when it is no longer responsible for the heart's peace. The heart stops demanding permanence from what is designed to pass. This shift does not remove engagement with life. It restores balance to it. When disappointment appears after even the best experiences, it is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of misplacement. The heart placed its hope in the wrong location. This realization is not meant to create withdrawal, it is meant to create clarity. The heart does not need to be quieted by the world, it needs to be centered. Once the heart finds its center, the world no longer feels like a burden or a solution. It becomes what it was always meant to be, a place to pass through, not a place to rest. The mistake of asking the world to quiet the heart teaches an important lesson. Peace is not found by asking temporary things to act permanent. Peace emerges when the heart stops demanding from the world what only proper orientation can provide. When this understanding settles, disappointment softens, expectations loosen, and the heart begins to rest in a quieter, steadier way, not because the world has changed, but because the heart has stopped asking it to be more than it is. Accomplishment has a clear effect on the mind. It confirms effort. It signals completion. It provides a sense of progress and control. The mind receives these signals and feels rewarded, but the heart responds differently. It remains largely untouched by accomplishment because accomplishment speaks to doing, not to being. This is why reaching a goal often feels quieter than expected. When a goal is achieved, there is usually a brief moment of satisfaction. The effort is over, the struggle ends. Recognition may follow, but soon after, the heart notices something unexpected. The deep sense of rest that was anticipated does not arrive. The noise stops, but stillness does not settle. The heart remains alert, as if waiting for something else. This experience confuses many people. They assume the goal was not meaningful enough, or that they need a bigger achievement next time. They raise the standard, set a new target, and begin again. But this pattern repeats because the issue is not the size of the accomplishment. It is its nature. Accomplishment satisfies effort. It validates the work put in, the discipline applied, and the obstacles overcome. The mind thrives on this validation. It uses accomplishment as evidence of worth, capability, and progress. The heart, however, does not measure itself through effort alone. It listens for meaning, not milestones. The heart does not rest when something is finished. It rests when something is recognized. Recognition is different from achievement. Achievement marks an external outcome. Recognition touches something internal. It answers questions of belonging, direction, and truth. Without recognition, achievement remains surface level. This is why celebration fades quickly. The applause stops. The task is complete. But the heart has not been addressed. It does not feel acknowledged in its deeper longing. It begins to look again, not for another task, but for something that feels grounding. Accomplishment also creates a subtle pressure. Once achieved, it raises expectations. The heart senses this pressure immediately. It knows that achievement creates momentum, comparison, and responsibility. Rather than bringing rest, it introduces a new level of demand. The heart prepares itself again, unable to relax fully. Another reason accomplishment does not bring rest is that it often strengthens identity rather than softening it. The heart becomes identified with roles, labels, and results. These identities must be maintained. Maintenance requires effort. Effort prevents rest. The heart was not created to be impressed by success. It was created to be aligned. When alignment is missing, no amount of achievement will satisfy. The heart may feel proud, relieved, or validated temporarily, but it will not feel settled. Many people confuse exhaustion with fulfillment. They believe the absence of energy after achievement is rest. But exhaustion is not rest. Exhaustion is depletion. Rest is replenishment. Accomplishment often leads to exhaustion because it draws heavily on effort without restoring the heart. The heart rests when it recognizes where it belongs. Belonging does not come from winning, achieving, or proving. It comes from knowing one's place in relation to truth. Without this recognition, accomplishment remains incomplete. Another quiet reason accomplishment does not bring rest is fear of loss. What is achieved can be lost. The heart senses this vulnerability, even if the mind ignores it. This awareness prevents full relaxation. The heart remains slightly guarded, protecting what has been gained. Accomplishment also separates moments. It creates before and after. The heart is forced to move forward again. There is no lasting pause. Life continues. The heart does not find a place to settle. Recognition, on the other hand, does not depend on circumstances. It does not require maintenance. When the heart recognizes truth, direction, and belonging, it settles regardless of external change. This is why recognition brings a deeper, quieter rest. The heart does not reject accomplishment, it simply does not confuse it with rest. When accomplishment is placed in its proper role, it becomes lighter. It can be appreciated without being depended on. When the heart stops expecting rest from achievement, it stops being disappointed by it. Goals can be pursued without attachment. Success can be enjoyed without illusion. Failure can be faced without collapse. The heart rests when it is oriented correctly, not when it is accomplished endlessly. Recognition anchors the heart in something stable. Achievement moves, recognition remains. This understanding changes how the heart approaches effort. Effort becomes expression rather than identity. Work becomes contribution rather than proof. Life becomes participation rather than pursuit. In this way, accomplishment finds its proper place. It no longer promises rest it cannot deliver, and the heart, freed from that expectation, begins to seek rest where it was always meant to be found. Beneath all the movement, desire, and effort, the heart is quietly seeking one simple thing: a center. Not stimulation, not excitement, not constant novelty. The heart does not long to be entertained endlessly. It longs to be grounded. It wants to know where it stands when everything else around it moves, changes, or disappears. This longing is subtle, which is why it is often misunderstood and misdirected. Stimulation keeps the senses busy, but it does not answer the heart's deeper question. The heart asks, "Where do I rest when nothing is stable?" Experiences come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Circumstances shift without warning. The heart is not confused by this movement. It is disturbed by the absence of something unmoving within it. Without a center, every change feels heavier than it needs to be. This is why accumulation fails to bring lasting peace. Possessions increase, experiences multiply, and achievements stack up, yet the heart remains unsettled. Each addition promises stability, but none provide it. The heart does not want to collect more pieces. It wants a place where it can stop collecting altogether. Accumulation keeps the heart moving outward, while what it seeks requires turning inward. The heart wants to feel held without conditions. Conditional support depends on circumstances remaining favorable. When those conditions shift, the heart feels exposed again. Unconditional holding, however, does not fluctuate. It does not depend on success, approval, or control. The heart senses the difference instinctively. This is why it does not relax fully in anything that can be taken away. Many people assume the heart's dissatisfaction means it is demanding or ungrateful. In truth, the heart is discerning. It recognizes when something cannot provide what it needs. It does not protest loudly. It simply refuses to settle. This refusal is not rebellion. It is wisdom. The heart does not want to own more because ownership increases responsibility, attachment, and fear of loss. Instead of peace, ownership often brings vigilance. The heart remains alert, guarding what it has gained. True rest cannot exist in constant guarding. The heart longs for a resting place that does not require defense. This longing explains why moments of quiet can feel both relieving and unsettling. When noise fades, the heart becomes aware of what it has been missing. It is not missing excitement, it is missing orientation. Silence reveals the absence of a center, not the absence of stimulation. The heart's search often takes the wrong shape. It seeks connection in people, meaning in achievement, and permanence in experiences. These searches are not wrong, but they are incomplete. People change. Achievements and experience fade. The heart senses this fragility and continues searching. What the heart is quietly seeking is something that does not shift with circumstance. It wants a point of reference that remains steady whether life expands or contracts. Without this reference, the heart feels like it is floating, always adjusting, never arriving. When the heart finds its center, something changes immediately. It does not become indifferent to the world, but it becomes less dependent on it. Experiences can be enjoyed without being clung to. Losses can be felt without collapse. Movement continues, but the heart no longer moves with it uncontrollably. This is why rest is not found by adding more to life. It is found by establishing where the heart stands within life. Once the heart knows its center, accumulation loses its urgency. Desire softens. The constant reaching slows. The heart's true desire is not to escape the world, but to relate to it from a place of stability. When the center is missing, the heart leans too heavily on what surrounds it. When the center is found, the heart stands on its own ground. This ground does not need to be defended, maintained, or earned repeatedly. It simply is. The heart recognizes it not through excitement, but through relief. The relief of no longer having to search. What the heart is quietly seeking has never been absent. It has only been obscured by movement. When movement slows and attention turns inward, the heart begins to sense where it belongs. And in that sensing, the endless hunger for more begins to dissolve, not because the heart has less desire, but because it has finally found where to rest. Distraction does not remove emptiness. It delays meeting it. When the heart fills its days with constant activity, stimulation, or mental noise, the sense of emptiness does not disappear. It simply moves into the background. It waits. The heart may feel temporarily occupied, even relieved, but nothing has actually been resolved. When the distraction fades, as it always does, the emptiness feels stronger, not because it has grown, but because it was never addressed. This is why quiet moments can feel uncomfortable. When noise stops, the heart is no longer shielded. Without stimulation to lean on, the heart becomes aware of what it has been missing. This awareness can feel sudden and intense, but it is not new. It is simply uncovered. Distraction acted as a cover, not a cure. The heart often uses distraction as a form of protection. It believes that staying busy will prevent uncomfortable feelings from surfacing. Planning, scrolling, talking, consuming, and constantly thinking give the heart something to hold on to. These activities feel productive or soothing, but they also keep the heart from listening to itself. Over time, this avoidance creates distance. The heart becomes unfamiliar with its own voice. When distraction is constant, the heart loses sensitivity. It stops recognizing what it truly needs because it never sits long enough to feel it. Emptiness then turns vague and confusing. The heart senses something is missing but cannot name it. This confusion often leads to even more distraction, deepening the cycle. The heart does not need noise to feel alive. Noise stimulates the senses, but it dulls inner awareness. Life may feel full externally, yet empty internally. This contrast creates a subtle exhaustion. The heart grows tired, not from lack of activity, but from lack of meaning. Distraction consumes energy without restoring it. When silence arrives, the heart finally has space to speak. It does not speak in words at first. It speaks through feeling. A sense of lack, longing, or incompleteness rises. This is often misinterpreted as a problem to fix quickly, but this feeling is not an enemy. It is information. Emptiness feels louder after distraction because the heart is no longer numbed. The heart's awareness returns. What was muted becomes audible. This can feel overwhelming at first, especially if the heart has been distracted for a long time. But the intensity is temporary. It is the volume of something that has been unheard, not something that has increased. Distraction also prevents the heart from integrating experiences. Without pause, moments stack on top of each other without being processed. The heart does not have time to absorb, understand, or settle. This accumulation creates a sense of inner clutter. When distraction stops, the heart feels crowded and unsettled, mistaking this for emptiness. The truth is that distraction does not protect the heart from emptiness. It protects emptiness from being understood. When the heart never meets its own longing directly, it cannot learn what it is pointing toward. Distraction keeps the heart busy but uninformed. Silence, though uncomfortable at first, restores honesty. In silence, the heart cannot hide behind stimulation. It must face what it feels. This facing is not meant to overwhelm, it is meant to clarify. The heart begins to recognize that what it has been missing is not noise, excitement, or constant engagement. It has been missing alignment and grounding. Emptiness becomes stronger when ignored, because ignored needs intensify. The heart does not stop needing what it needs just because it is distracted. When attention finally returns inward, those needs appear all at once. This sudden appearance can feel heavy, but it is also an opportunity. The heart's discomfort in silence is not a sign that silence is harmful. It is a sign that something important has been postponed. Silence reveals what distraction concealed. It does not create the problem, it exposes it. Over time, as the heart learns to stay with this exposure without escaping again, the emptiness begins to change. It becomes less threatening, it softens, it turns into clarity. The heart starts to understand what it has been longing for beneath the distraction. Distraction keeps the heart occupied. Silence makes the heart honest. And honesty is what allows the heart to move from emptiness toward meaning. When the heart listens instead of escaping, it realizes that emptiness was never asking to be filled with noise. It was asking to be acknowledged. Distraction makes emptiness stronger because it delays truth. When distraction ends and honesty begins, the heart finally hears itself clearly. And once it is heard, the emptiness no longer needs to shout. There comes a quiet turning point in the life of the heart, one that is easy to miss because it does not arrive with drama or excitement. Nothing new is added. Nothing remarkable happens on the surface. Yet inwardly, something decisive shifts. The heart stops asking whether something is enough. It no longer measures experiences, relationships, achievements, or moments by how complete they feel. This shift does not happen because the heart finally finds the perfect thing. It happens because the heart releases a demand it was never meant to carry. For a long time, the heart asks the world a single question in many forms. Will this be enough? Will this bring rest? Will this finally quiet me? Each experience is approached with this hidden expectation. Even enjoyment carries pressure because the heart is waiting to see whether fulfillment will last. When it fades, disappointment follows, and the search begins again. The turning point arrives when the heart realizes that no experience was meant to answer this question. It was never a failure of choice or timing. It was a misunderstanding of purpose. Experiences are meant to be lived, not leaned on. When the heart releases the expectation of completion from experience, the pressure lifts immediately. This release is subtle. The heart does not announce it. It simply becomes quieter, not numb, not indifferent, just quieter. The constant measuring softens, the comparison fades. The heart no longer asks whether something should feel deeper, stronger, or more lasting. It allows moments to be what they are without demanding permanence from them. This quiet does not come from fullness, it comes from belonging. The heart recognizes that it was never meant to be completed by accumulation. It was meant to be placed correctly. Once the heart finds its place, the endless evaluation of enough loses relevance. When the heart stops demanding enough, enjoyment changes. Pleasure becomes lighter. Joy becomes cleaner. There is less anxiety beneath happiness because the heart is no longer afraid of losing what it depends on. It enjoys without clinging and releases without collapse. The heart also becomes more patient, not because it is waiting for something better, but because it is no longer bargaining with the present. It does not rush moments to become something else. It stays with them fully, without expectation. This shift also affects disappointment. Disappointment no longer feels like failure. When something ends or changes, the heart does not interpret it as proof that nothing works. It understands that the experience fulfilled its role and passed as it was meant to. Loss becomes lighter because it is no longer tied to the heart's sense of completion. The moment the heart stops demanding enough, desire itself transforms. Desire no longer reaches outward desperately. It becomes selective and calm. The heart wants, but it does not need in the same way. Wanting becomes appreciation rather than dependence. This turning point is not withdrawal from life. The heart does not become detached in a cold sense. It becomes rooted. It participates fully without losing itself. The world becomes something to engage with, not something to solve. The heart's quietness at this stage is often mistaken for emptiness by those who are still searching. But it is not emptiness, it is relief. Relief from asking the wrong question repeatedly. Relief from carrying expectations that could never be met. Belonging brings a deeper form of rest than satisfaction ever could. Satisfaction depends on conditions. Belonging does not. When the heart belongs, it does not need to be filled. It needs only to remain. This is why the heart becomes quieter. Not because it has everything, but because it is no longer asking everything to be something it cannot be. The noise was never about lack. It was about misplacement. The moment the heart stops demanding enough is the moment it stops negotiating with life. It no longer treats experiences as tests of fulfillment. It allows them to come and go without turning each one into a verdict. This quiet turning does not announce itself as enlightenment or resolution. It feels ordinary, calm, grounded, but it changes everything. The search slows, the heart rests more often, and what once felt like endless dissatisfaction reveals itself as guidance that has finally been understood. The heart does not stop demanding enough because it has settled for less. It stops because it has found where it belongs, and once it belongs, the question no longer needs to be asked. Stillness changes everything, not because it provides answers, but because it removes the noise that created false questions in the first place. When the heart is constantly moving, it assumes something is missing. It believes the solution lies ahead, somewhere else, in something not yet reached. Stillness interrupts this assumption. It does not explain life. It simplifies it. In stillness, the heart is no longer chasing explanations. The urgency to understand, fix, or complete something begins to dissolve. Questions that once felt pressing lose their grip, not because they were answered, but because they were never essential. The heart realizes it has been asking the wrong things. The heart often believes it is lacking. This belief is strengthened by constant movement. Movement suggests pursuit. Pursuit implies absence. When the heart is always reaching, it reinforces the idea that fulfillment exists elsewhere. Stillness interrupts this pattern. It allows the heart to notice what is already present. When movement slows, longing clarifies. Longing becomes less scattered and more precise. It no longer takes the form of endless desire. It reveals its true direction. The heart begins to sense that what it has been seeking is not something to acquire, but something to recognize. Stillness removes distraction, and with it, confusion. Without constant input, the heart becomes more aware of its own state. This awareness can feel uncomfortable at first. Emotions that were avoided surface, thoughts that were postponed appear. But this exposure is not harmful. It is honest. The heart does not need to be filled with answers to feel at peace. It needs to stop asking questions that pull it away from itself. Stillness allows the heart to rest without solving. This rest is unfamiliar to a heart trained to move, but it is deeply restorative. Another reason stillness changes everything is that it removes comparison. When the heart is still, it is not measuring itself against others' progress or experiences. Comparison requires movement and observation. Stillness brings attention inward, where comparison cannot survive. In stillness, time feels different. The pressure of urgency softens. The heart no longer feels chased by what is next. It stays where it is. This staying is not stagnation, it is presence. And presence reveals that the heart is not behind. Stillness also changes the relationship with desire. Desire no longer feels like lack. It becomes guidance. The heart sees clearly what it is drawn toward and what it is trying to escape. This clarity allows desire to soften into direction. The heart realizes in stillness that it was never empty. It was misdirected. It was looking outward for something that could only be recognized inwardly. This realization is not intellectual. It is a relief. When stillness is sustained, the heart begins to trust where it is. It no longer rushes moments to become something else. It allows life to unfold without interference. This allowance creates a sense of safety. Stillness also restores sensitivity. Without constant stimulation, the heart becomes more receptive. Small shifts become noticeable. Subtle guidance becomes clearer. The heart feels supported without needing proof. Another profound effect of stillness is that it reveals what does not belong. When movement stops, unnecessary desires lose strength. What remains is what matters. This simplification brings peace. Stillness does not remove complexity from life. It removes complexity from the heart. The heart becomes less tangled in expectations, regrets, and projections. It returns to a simpler state of being. In stillness, the heart stops trying to become something. It simply allows itself to be. This is where transformation happens quietly, without force or effort. What the heart seeks reveals itself not as something to gain, but as something to return to. Return does not require movement, it requires recognition. Stillness provides the space for this recognition to occur. This is why stillness changes everything. Not because it adds meaning, but because it reveals what was already meaningful. The heart realizes it was never meant to run endlessly. It was meant to rest in awareness. When the heart rests in stillness, life continues to move, but the heart no longer moves with it uncontrollably. It stays rooted. And from this rootedness, clarity, peace, and direction emerge naturally without being chased. The end of searching does not arrive with a dramatic sense of arrival. There is no final moment where the heart announces that it has found everything it was looking for. Instead, the search fades quietly. One day, the heart notices that it is no longer scanning the horizon for completion. The urgency that once pushed it forward softens. The constant questioning loosens its grip. The heart does not stop moving through life, but it stops moving toward life, as if something essential were missing. When the heart finds its true orientation, searching loses its purpose. Orientation does not remove desire, nor does it freeze experience. Desires still appear, interests still form, the heart still engages with the world, but these movements are no longer driven by lack. They arise from presence rather than pursuit. The heart is no longer trying to arrive somewhere else in order to feel whole. Life continues in all its motion. Moments come and go, relationships deepen and change, joy appears and fades. Challenges still arise. None of this disappears. What disappears is the belief that fulfillment is waiting just beyond the next experience. The heart no longer treats life as a problem to solve or a destination to reach. The question of enough loses its urgency because the heart is no longer asking it. Not because everything feels perfect, but because the heart has stopped demanding completion from passing things. The question dissolves naturally once the heart understands where it belongs. There is no need to ask whether something is sufficient when sufficiency is no longer being sought externally. This shift brings a new quality of quiet into the heart, not silence in the sense of emptiness, but quiet in the sense of steadiness. The heart becomes less reactive. It does not rush toward pleasure or recoil from discomfort with the same intensity. It remains engaged, but grounded. The end of searching also changes how the heart relates to disappointment. When something does not fulfill expectations, the heart does not collapse inward. It recognizes that fulfillment was never the role of that experience. Disappointment becomes information rather than failure. It passes through without leaving a deep wound. The heart also becomes more patient, not because it is waiting for something better, but because it is no longer negotiating with the present. It stays with moments as they are. It allows time to unfold without resistance. Waiting no longer feels like absence. It feels like space. Another sign of the end of searching is simplicity. The heart needs less to feel settled. Not because it has lowered its standards, but because it has clarified its needs. What once felt essential now feels optional. What once felt urgent now feels secondary. The heart chooses more carefully, not from fear, but from clarity. Standing quietly where it was always meant to stand does not mean withdrawal from life. It means the heart is no longer pulled off center by every change. It participates without being dragged. It engages without being consumed. This balance brings a gentle strength that does not need to prove itself. The heart's orientation gives it a sense of place that does not depend on outcomes. Whether things go well or poorly, the heart knows where it stands. This knowledge creates resilience without hardness. The heart remains soft but steady. The end of searching also brings gratitude of a different kind. Not gratitude tied to circumstances, but gratitude rooted in recognition. The heart is grateful not because everything is going well, but because it is no longer lost. It recognizes the ground beneath it. There is also a subtle humility in this state. The heart no longer believes it can complete itself through effort alone. It no longer tries to manufacture peace. It allows peace to arise from alignment. This humility does not weaken the heart. It frees it. When the heart stops searching, it does not stop living. It lives more fully. Without the pressure to arrive somewhere else, Moments are experienced more deeply. Attention becomes more present. Listening becomes more genuine. Action becomes more intentional. The end of searching is not the end of growth. It is the end of restlessness. Growth continues, but it unfolds naturally rather than being chased. The heart grows because it is rooted, not because it is striving. Standing quietly where it was always meant to stand feels ordinary at first. There is no constant excitement, no rush. But over time, this ordinariness reveals itself as stability. The heart realizes that what it was looking for was never far away. It was simply obscured by movement. The end of searching does not announce itself loudly. It shows itself in small ways. Fewer comparisons, less urgency, softer reactions, deeper presence. The heart no longer asks life to complete it. It meets life from a place of wholeness. This is how the search ends, not with a final answer, but with a quiet knowing. The heart stands where it belongs, and in standing there, it discovers that nothing essential was ever missing. The heart was never restless because it lacked something. It was restless because it was facing the wrong direction. Every search, every longing, every moment of quiet dissatisfaction was guiding it back toward its true place. When the heart stops asking the world to complete it, it does not become empty. It becomes clear. Life continues to move, change, and unfold, but the heart no longer moves with uncertainty. It stands rooted, aware, and steady. This is where peace begins, not as an emotion to chase, but as a state of orientation. The heart no longer demands fulfillment from what passes. It recognizes what holds it, even as everything else shifts. In this recognition, the search dissolves naturally. Nothing dramatic ends, nothing extraordinary begins, yet everything changes, because the heart is finally where it was always meant to be.